So, hi everyone. Welcome to tonight's Whistler Half Marathon seminar. As we mentioned last week, we're flipping back and forth between some mental performance components, and then we're also going back to training. So tonight's going to be focused on training. And so part of the thing with the training is we are 10 weeks out now, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips, whether this is your first half marathon, 5K, 10K, whatever, your first event that you're doing, or you've been here. Oh, okay, that's for Dave. Couldn't find any recordings from last week. Dave, did you see that in the chat, Dave? We'll look into that for sure.
So sorry, we're looking for the recording from last week?
Yeah,
the recording is up on the website.
Okay.
And I will, so I don't see that chat. So let me just, I'll put a link in the chat where it is. There's a page.
It was a direct message. There you go. That's why.
Yeah.
So just, we will have the recordings up on the website, and there might be a couple day lag by the time I get it sent off to Dave, and then Dave puts it onto the website. So maybe just keep that in mind if you do check the day after. Again, it might take a couple days for that. But getting back to tonight, what I wanted to do is kind of give us a couple of tips for where we're starting from. Maybe some kind of key things that we want to start to look at as we're starting to progress and add on more miles and everything else. So part of our talk around the training are going to be looking at different components of training. So that might be what's your nutrition like? What kind of strength might you want to be putting in, or how would you want to complement your training? And looking at injury management, and we're doing that mental side with the other stuff that we're doing. And then looking at different training strategies that we might incorporate. So that's going to be a lot about tonight. As I said, we're 10 weeks out. What I would suggest you do at this point is work backwards from the race date. And why we work backwards is that from backwards, we know at that race date, that's where you want to know that you can do the distance. So whatever you're doing, whether it's the 30K, the 21, the 10, the 5, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you know that by that time, that's what you're going to be required to do. You want your body to be ready. You want your mind to be ready. So if you work backwards from that, get a calendar, make your own calendar, have some fun with this, make a little project. But look back and kind of look at the weeks. Okay, if week, June 3rd to 5th, you want to be running 30K. Okay, then the week before, you know you're going to be doing less mileage at that time. So that's going to be a little bit of a decreased week. So you're definitely not going to be running 30K then. And we'll go on to more about why you wouldn't want to be doing that. And hopefully, and some reasons why you might have to. It's been done before. And then you're going to want to go 2 weeks back. Okay, that might be a pretty long run that you're going to be doing those 2 weeks before that race. Okay, from there, let's say you want to have 25K under your belt. Great. Go from 25. Go back in increments of maybe adding or subtracting 2K. So 25, 23, you get it, right? 21, I know I can do that math. 19, see, I can do that too. So kind of go work backwards from it. If it's the 5K, maybe you're kind of going, oh, I'm only running 30 seconds right now, and I'm walking for 4.5 minutes. That's fine. It doesn't matter where you're starting from now. You can always make a plan. And I suggest that everybody has a plan. A lot of people will go into their races and they don't really have, oh, I just want to finish. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you can set a little bit of maybe a time that you might want to try for, give and take 15 minutes on either side, super. Gives you this ballpark. It will help with your training. It'll help keep you motivated and focused on it. Okay, so we can look at different components of that. So working backwards from your race date, best thing to do. So once you have that done, and if anybody's looking for more specifics about that, like what does it mean? What does it look like? I can actually write out some templates. I'll ship them off to Dave. Thank you. And maybe we can just put them up just to kind of have like, this might be a guideline. And I use that term. It's really important that you do take it as a guideline. You don't have to meet different things. We always know that life is going to get into the way, whether it's going to be taken away one of your long runs, whether it might be an injury, you might have to modify, whatever. So it's a guideline, but you can use that to just kind of look at, okay, maybe you've never done 30K before and it's really daunting. You're like, I don't know where to start. Reach out. Let us help you. Let us make this experience something that's really fun for you. Have fun in your training. Make something fun about it. Okay, on the topic of fun, I will tell you, I did a trail race a couple weeks ago. I think I'm still recovering. Okay, that wasn't what I was going to share. But the great thing is that anytime I do trail running, anytime, the minute that my mind shifts away from what I'm doing, I'm like thinking of what I might eat after, because I've been out there for so long. Immediately I hit the deck. Like I'm down on the dirt. So there I am running along. All of a sudden, I'm tired at this point. Catch my toe. I fall flat down. Well, I bounced up so fast. And of course, there was a guy right in front of me walking his 2 Jack Russells. And he goes, didn't see anything. And I was like, nothing happened. And I just kept on going. But the funny thing is that I jumped up so fast because I do burpees all the time. Love burpees. So who would have thought that a burpee would have got me from the floor back up as fast as I could, and off I was running. So as I say, have fun in your training. Combine something that you like, burpees are just fast twitch. Sometimes when we're doing a lot of long, slow distance training, our muscles just kind of go, they work at the same pace. So putting something in that's kind of springy, explosive, whatever. Great cross training. So that's my have fun with it. Because the minute that I got up and I thought, oh, that's really quite funny that I could pop up so fast, I ran away with a smile on my face. So kept me going for that run. So I digress, as I will. Apologies for that. But yeah, look at different ways that you can put stuff in that's fun. So yeah, if it's if this whole experience, maybe it's your first 10K too, and you're unsure how to navigate that. Again, I'll write out some guidelines, but what I think is a great exercise for you guys to do, just to learn how to do it so that you know for your next run that you're going to do, your next race, start from the end, start from your goal date, know your distance, work backwards from there. What does it look like? Okay. And then when maybe you see the guidelines that I put out, you can go, oh, all right, yeah, that looks good. Or I'm tweaking it here and there. So that's going to be the first thing that I would suggest. All right. I also talked about, some two things. When I was working backwards, I said, maybe you are a person that you need to know you can run that distance. And so you have to have run that distance prior to the race. You don't want the race to be the first time you're running that distance. That's fine. Put that in. If you're doing 30K or you're doing 21K and you want to have done that prior to the race, look at where you are starting from and where you want to have that 21K. Again, we can work back from there. All right. Other times you might be coming in to this training and you're here right now and you've got an injury or something that you're dealing with. If you're in that boat, you might say, well, actually, I'm going to train up until the race, and the race will be my longest distance. And it's just going to be like, okay, I'm going to see what happens. It's fine too. A lot of people have to do or use different strategies depending on where they're starting from. So this is my second part. Know where you're starting from. We're 10 weeks out. Look at how much running have you done. I was just up in Whistler on Monday. Looked like it was pretty good to be able to get out running on the streets. So, you know, you're hopefully out running right now. If you haven't been, maybe you've been in the gym. Maybe you're doing some treadmill work, elliptical work. You're cross training on a bike. Doesn't matter. Look at where you're starting from. How much running have you done up? What is your longest run up to this point right now? And how did it feel? So put that in. So you want to know, am I starting with an injury? Am I starting injury free? And I'm feeling pretty good. Have I been running tons? Right? If you're a person who, okay, bye. Thank you, Dave. If you're a person that you've done lots of running and you're looking at this is going to be a goal race. It's going to be a tough race, you know? So this is one great. You can challenge yourself on this one. If you're looking at that, your training might be very different. A lot of times when we have athletes that are racing marathons, racing half marathons, racing 50Ks, trail runs, whatever, we're looking at doing almost overtraining. And by overtraining, and let me clarify that, over distance training. So some people would say, if I'm running 30K, I'm going to be running up to maybe 40. I'm going to be doing a 35K run. Okay. So definitely lots of different ways that you can look at your training. And if you guys right now listening to this, if you're having any questions about, well, I'm not sure what my training is, or you do have a training question, please put that into the chat box and I'll just look at it and I can answer those questions. So if you've got any questions like that, I will say this evening, we have Wendy Ramsey with us, and Wendy Ramsey used to help out with our Whistler Half Marathon walking training program. So anybody that was walking, Wendy would pick up a lot of people and she would be their guide. Wendy, my gosh, you've done, I don't even know how many half marathons that you've done completed, but it's quite a few. Do you know?
I don't know. I know I've done all the ones that we've done, except
Together.
for the virtual.
Okay. Yeah. So you've probably done a good 7, if not more.
No, I think it's like 11, 10 or 11.
10 or 11. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So yeah, so Wendy's walked all of these, and there's always a walking group that is out there. So what I love about this race too is that we don't necessarily have to run. And I think Whistler is a place that we can get caught up in that. I gotta run, I can't walk, whatever. This is a race for everybody. This is an event for everybody. So whether you're going to be walking or running, it doesn't matter. You're still looking at this as your event and you're putting in a training plan. Wendy would do a lot of her walking. She would do the same distance that we would do for our run training. And she would start earlier, knowing it was going to take her longer amount of time in order to complete it. So she would want to finish with all of us. So she would start off earlier in the morning. A lot of people that come up with injuries, running injuries, they will have to modify. Sometimes you're going to be out there walking. Maybe the body isn't able or ready to take on that much impact. So you need to kind of look at alternatives that you're going to be putting in to your training. All right. The other thing, starting with injuries, is I think it's really important that if you are coming into training for an event with an injury, that you are having guidance with that. And that is either with a personal trainer, kinesiologist, you're following with your physio, you're doing some form of strength training that is run specific, and that is addressing your injury. Okay, really important. Who is it? Mike Conway from Back in Action. If you go on his website, I believe he has what's called the Run Rad program. And in that, you can download it, and it's got just some great strength exercises. We worked on some of the exercises together that he has in that booklet. It's really good. It gives you a progression. I used his progression when I had a hamstring, a slight tear in my hamstring, and I was able to run a marathon after rehabbing it. I had to modify my gait a little bit in order to get through, but it definitely was the strength training that I needed. And so make sure you're getting some guidance. And my big thing with running injuries is I always think there's something else you can do. I'm a big proponent of that, depending on what the injury is, but there's always an option. Water running is a great option, right? Non-impact. So you can either do deep water running or shallow water. The minute that you chest deep, you're taking away 80% of your body weight. So if you're having problems with feet problems or whatever, and you can't walk normally when you're fully weight bearing, go into the water, get into the pool, and start to work on the proper biomechanics of your feet. And again, I'm a little off, but I'm kind of putting it all out there. I've got so much to share. I get so excited about it all. And one thing, I think of one thing and I'm like, bing, bing, bing. Even though I have written out what I was going to talk about. So yeah, so that's just a couple of things to think in mind, to have in mind. So first, starting from the end, looking back for your training, know where you're starting from. What is your athletic ability? Have you run anything before previously, or is this your first event? So take everything into consideration. There's tons of run training programs out there. I like to think that for some people, you know, running 4 to 5 times a week, it just doesn't agree with their bodies. Nothing wrong with that. Put in some walking. I like to think of it as time on your feet. So I would often do a long run one day. And if I didn't feel like I could impact again, and though my training plan might say, oh, the next day do a shorter run, and I was just like, it's not happening, I'd just go for time on my feet and I'd walk. Great. Power hike. Perfect. So many ways to kind of modify. Okay. So that's a couple of things. We've got our 10 weeks out, and you're looking at basically, yeah, let's go back to your training with that 10 weeks out. I kind of said that 2 kilometers, kind of mine taking off 2 kilometers from your longest run, kind of sticking with that as a weekly, like each week increasing by 2 kilometers. They kind of say 2 kilometers, 15 minutes. Okay. So some people, depending on how fast you're running a kilometer, some people are, sub 5 kilometer times. Great. Do you want to increase 3K every week? You might not want to. You might be able to do it one week, and then the next week you might want to go back to 2. So you can ebb and flow with that. If you're if you know that if within 15 minutes you're not even going to get 2K in, great. Then you just go with that 15 minutes. Okay, I think I can put on 15 minutes. Take time each week, and especially when it's your long run, just to evaluate, how am I feeling? How is my body feeling? I like to use the 10-minute rule, which became the 20-minute rule as I aged. But 10-minute rule is, if I'm not really feeling that like I want to run, or I'm tired, I'm like, I don't know. 10-minute rule. Put your shoes on, go out of the door. And if after 10 minutes, you're not feeling it, like really, either your heart rate's up, or you're just like, no, I'm dogging it. It's like I'm pulling a piano. I'm not going to pull a piano for an hour. Great. Turn around. Guess what? You've done 20 minutes. Yay. You got your shoes on. Yay. So we've already done a few real positive steps, even though you didn't achieve maybe that run that you wanted to. You've given yourself that option, that out. What I've found, I think I've only turned around maybe once or twice. And other than that, once I'm out there, I'm like, well, I'm out here. I'm going to keep going. So it's kind of nice. And, a lot of times moving our body sometimes shifts our mood. And so it's good. So just kind of looking at that. So that's going to be with your weekly runs, looking at what kind of distance am I wanting to increase, having that check-in with yourself. How am I feeling? And going from there. Are there any questions about that? You can either, yeah. Nope. Oh, okay. No questions.
I thought it was like 10% increase. So I'm surprised of you 2K, because if someone is running, like, for example, I'm running 8 right now. If I increase by 2 is way too much. So yes, I thought like it was about 10% each week. Am I wrong?
Yes. No. And thank you for saying that, because yes. You got me. Yeah, when we're first starting off, yeah, that 2K, if you're at 8 right now and you're thinking of jumping, that's a big jump. And even especially for our 5K people, I keep it down to around that 10%, definitely. And that is a great rule of thumb, to have your 10% increasing by 10%. I'm just such a bad math person that I usually go with my timer, my kilometers. And yeah, I should be more mindful of that. Thank you for that, Magali. It's yeah, increasing by 10% is perfect right now, especially when you don't have a lot of miles on your feet. Okay.
Yeah, and coming back from winter, and just like if you haven't been running for like a few months or whatever it is, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah. So 10% increase, miles are down. I don't stop running, so because I'm too afraid to lose anything that I have. So I just keep going. Not the best strategy, but it's mine. And yeah, so yes, definitely if we're starting off with you haven't had a lot of time on your feet, it's early in the season, absolutely. And a lot of people have been doing skiing sports, and that it is a different impact on your body. So you do want to, the slower the increase is better. Trying to go in too fast is recipe for injury. So it's a great, thank you very much for catching that. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions about that? We're okay. Okay. So the other thing, when you're looking at your training plan for your long runs, if you're thinking that you are going to be doing a walk run, train a walk run. Okay. So for your long runs, train it. I think a walk run strategy is excellent for any beginner runner, and not just for beginners. Sometimes you'll find for some experienced runners, they will still do a walk run. If you've got a nutrition plan that I need to stop and walk while I'm eating, great. You're going to put that into your training plan, whatever that might look like. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about nutrition on a later seminar. So I'm going to leave that, but I just want you to kind of think about, know what kind of plan you're going to have for that race. If you're doing a running interval, what's that going to look like? I work with a 70 or 72 year old client running 5Ks every single weekend. I kid you not. And it's got half marathons and 12Ks, but he does 2 minutes running, 1 minute walking. That's it. All of his training is based around that. All of his long runs are that. And then he does long power hikes where it's just walking or power walking. We do interval training for him that is much more, it's tailored to that. Sometimes I get him to run longer intervals so he kind of knows what they feel like. It makes his 2 minutes feel better. But then we also make him run shorter so that he gets that speed and leg turnover. So yeah, whatever you're doing, you do. It's a great strategy. I'm trying to think of, it's not Hal Higdon. Might be Bart. Yeah, so I'll look this up, but there is one of the marathon guys that's been a marathoner for years and years and years, and he only does a walk run. All of his training programs are walk run, and he's got scientific basis behind it and everything. So some people find that because they get that rest when they're walking, even though it is a power walk, that little bit of rest, changing up the way the muscles fire, the minute that they get onto running, they're actually faster and more efficient. So, play around with it if you need to. Yeah, so think about that with your training. What kind of run interval are you going to be doing? And maybe you're just going for a consistent, I want to run the whole thing. So yeah, so kind of have that. Yeah, perfect. So that's great. So Shannon's just shared that she's planning to do a walk run, and she's got a goal that she's heading for. And so for you, Shannon, I'd really say Jeff Galloway. Thank you. Yay. Jeff Galloway, that's it. Yeah, so Jeff Galloway, that might be a fun one for you to check out too, Shannon. Checking out his program. He does a very short duration walk in between. I think it's only 30 seconds. And then he does his runs. But yeah, so playing around with that, if you're at that 3-in-1, see how it feels. Yeah, so that's awesome. And so you're gonna kind of, as you're going through your training, you're gonna be adding into probably your long runs, switching up those run walk intervals. And I sometimes do in those longer runs, like if my goal is to get to, let's say you're going to be running that 10 and 1, and right now you're at 3, maybe it's okay, 3 and 1, 3 and 1, 4 and 1, 3 and 1, 3 and 1, as you do your long race. So you play around with that. Okay. The other thing I would say, if you do a walk run, make sure that when you're walking with purpose. So they're like, drive back your elbows as if you were running, and that will help to keep that tempo and help to kind of keep you engaged still in your running. The other thing to look at with going from a run walk, and this is what we see with a lot of our beginner runners, is that when we walk, when our foot hits the ground, we go heel, toe, and we roll off and through. When we run, we don't want to do heel, toe. We want to go midfoot. Okay, that heel is light. It might kiss the ground, but that's already when it's kind of been on the ground and I'm pushing off. Okay, so we want to watch that. The reason why you don't want to do that heel strike first when you're running is because what it does is it usually means that our leg is actually in front of us too far. When the heel strikes the ground, it causes what we call a braking force. So that means that if I'm running, I put 8 times more impact through my body, through my foot into the ground. There's 8 times the weight going through and there. When that hits, that's going to actually jar up my body. And as I say, it causes that braking force. So you want to really watch that when you're walking, heel toe, your strides might be longer. Then when you go into the run, make sure that there is a different kind of pace step. The steps can start off a little bit shorter, but then it's that midfoot. What I love to think about when I feel myself getting heavy when I run is, how would I be if I was skipping? And when we skip, yes, we're on our toes a little bit more, but we're on our forefoot. You can't skip off your heels. So don't expect to run off your heels. That's a great little thing just to kind of play around with yourself. You want to have that lightness. We want to use the ground to bounce off of, not sink into. Okay, so just a little awareness around that, but great. Love the walk runs. I do Ironman racing, and for myself, my marathon is never run alone marathon, never. And so I always practice a walk run. I like to do an 8 and 2 because I know that I'm going to be, when I hit an aid station, that's going to be my fuel. I am going to be stopping. The hard part is starting after. And that's why I say train this, because if you get tired, walking can become so comfortable. And the thought of having to start running again can be really hard. So you're training your nervous system in order to walk, run. You're training your brain, everything all comes into that. All right. So that's for our running. And yeah. So really for this week, everybody's homework, if you haven't yet done it, done this, is look at the race calendar, look when the race is, work backwards, see where you want to be. It's going to be your guideline. Might be some modifications that you're going to be making in there. Maybe you've got trips, whatever. I think the worst thing we can do is when we train out of fear that we're not going to get there. Let's say you've had a bad week or work has been really busy. You've missed that long run. You don't have to try and make it up. Like just kind of, maybe take a shorter run and try and go a little faster. You're still getting benefits and intensity, but don't feel like you have to go back and, I didn't do this one, so therefore I can't do that one. There's always ways to modify it. If you're getting into those higher distances, mileages, whatever, and you have missed your long run, maybe you want to come back that week and you're like, okay, no, I really need to feel comfortable here, adding on 4K or, 20% might just be too much. So it's all about an ebb and flow. And I really encourage you all to have a little bit of flexibility with that, even during the week. If you're always doing your long run on Sunday and, you know, something's happening on a Sunday and you've got to switch it up, maybe it becomes a Thursday long run. You have the time, whatever, ebb and flow. All right. Yeah. Okay. So weekly training, that's one of my suggestions. I'm going to say one other thing about that. A lot of times you'll see programs that are doing a 3-week build, 1 week off. I definitely encourage you to look at having a rest week at some point. And by rest week does not mean you're doing nothing. A rest week would mean that I'm taking down my intensity and my distance. I'm going to be covering less. Okay. I'm not going to be working as hard. If I'm feeling tired, I might take the day off. Or you're going to be substituting. You can do what we call active recovery. So that means that instead of doing all this time on my feet, I'm going to be doing a lot more cycling this week. And it's just going to be spinning out my legs and whatever it might be. So look at how you might have that either 3-week build. What I've found with some of my athletes as they age, myself included, that a 2-week build works really well and my 1 week off. My recovery is not the same. So I modify it now. I used to be able to do the 3 weeks, no problem, that's fine. Now I find that it's harder. It's harder for my body to recover. And I want to be able to go in to my workouts, being able to meet my goals and instead of always feeling defeated by them. And so in order to do that, I just have to change up how I'm training, how I'm doing that. And it doesn't, if I can still meet my goals, great. I'm happy with that. So kind of take that into account for what you can do with what you have, with what time you have, and looking at having that recovery. Okay. Active recovery, important during the week. And then also looking at maybe if you're really putting a lot of mileage on your feet, taking that down for 1 week and just letting everything chill, letting the body go. I often find it's really helpful for letting you feel, especially if you're getting up that 20 and 30K, and then you come back and you're like, this week I have 15K, yay, right? It's such, it's just like, oh, this is doable. I've been doing this long distance. This is great. So a nice way to have that perspective shift. Yeah. Okay, you guys. So that's about it that I have to talk about this evening. And does anybody have any questions about any of that I've talked about? Anything makes sense? Doesn't make sense? Yeah, let me know.
Christine, it's Megs. As always, I ask tons of questions. I should be like with you in that same room.
Yeah. Just come over here next time, okay?
I've been starting doing like I run time instead of distance, so I increase time, and so I go 45 and like 47 and 48, and now my goal is 60 by next week. And I do 4 times 1 minute intervals at a faster pace of 20%, and then I keep running after, and I take 1 minute in between my time. So if I do 45 minutes, I split it in half. Would you recommend to keep going, doing some intervals? And if you do, how many times a week would you do them? Or are you planning on talking about this in future meetings?
Yeah, no, happy to tap into that right now. I would say a typical week. So your typical week, I would have 1 set of intervals during that week. Okay. And what we know is that a lot of times with intervals, there's a higher risk of injury with those.
Yeah.
So you're running faster, you're pushing yourself more, even though it's short. So if I was to look at a week, and let's say I'm running 3 or 4 times a week, I would want to have my long run. I might want to have a recovery run. I'll be doing what I'd call a tempo and some intervals.
Okay.
So it would be putting in all of those. Big things would be the long run, tempo, and intervals. Okay. If that is too much for somebody, it might just be long run. It's going to be an easy run and then intervals. But I really think intervals are important. And one of the things I will say is because this race is very hilly, practice doing some short, explosive hill repeats, right? And we can do those 2 ways. You can do them running up. Okay, so you're going to go a minute up, and then you're going to walk down, take 30 seconds rest, or easy jog down, 30 seconds rest at the bottom, a minute up, walk down, run down, right? But so you can switch up your intervals, or you can be doing those flat, faster, maybe longer sets, like you're doing those 4 minutes or whatever. Right. Yeah. And then looking at recovery. A lot of times, like what it sounds like what you're doing a little bit is you're just doing a run that's 4 minutes on, 1 minute off, but you're trying to go a little bit faster in that 4 minutes. Am I correct?
No.
No.
I'm running right now, like, let's say 50 minutes. And in the 50, at 25 minutes, I will walk 1 minute.
Yeah.
And I do 2 intervals in the first set, and I do 2 intervals in the second set. And I time it for 1 minute to run 20% faster than my pace. Because my goal was not to, it was like to just finish the run and building endurance. But I'm almost at my 60-minute goal. And I'm like, once I hit that, then I can start what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, great. And are you putting in more than, like, how many times a week are you running?
3.
Okay, perfect. And they're all different?
In what way?
Are you doing that same run plan for every run that you go on?
No, I do that run intervals only once or twice. And I started doing hills only the last couple of weeks. And I'm not used to do that. And I felt that my legs were much more tired. So I'm taking extra day instead of doing every 2 days. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The hills, and you know what really fries out your legs, and this is for everybody, is hard downhill running. Hard downhill running is what we'd call an eccentric loading of the muscle. Eccentric means that the muscle is actually lengthening as you are stressing it. It causes an increase in micro tears of the muscle. So there will be, and a micro tear means that as that muscle tears, there's a little bit of bleeding that happens in the muscle. You're going to have increased muscle soreness after that. If you've ever done a big hike and it's been a steep downhill, just hiking, and like your quads are fried, right? That's because of that eccentric loading. So you really want to be careful with hard downhill running. But that being said, before you do the race, if you know you are going to be running hard down those hills, it is going to be a skill you want to practice prior to, knowing that you're going to need a couple days recovery. Okay. And you're going to want to do that prior to the race. And it actually strengthens the muscles a lot. It prepares them for this type of running, this impact, but it will make them stronger. So I do a lot of trail running. My trail runs that I have, they are very steep. And so 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to my race, I will fry out my quads. Like literally, I'll have trouble walking for 2 days after I've done that kind of workout, and then sitting on a bike spinning. I'm flushing my legs constantly because I know there's going to be that buildup. That's lactic acid. There's toxins. I want to flush it. So I might just do a very flat run. I might just do a walk. I want to move that kind of toxin in my muscles. It is a little bit more specific, but definitely we know that this route is up and down. So you're going to want to have all of that. Looking at your terrain, you want to put in different aspects of that terrain. Not everybody's going to do that. You could even just working on walking. Wendy's a great example of a person that is very consistent with her training. She will train the course and she will walk. She does intervals with us when we're doing intervals, when we're doing the training in person. She would do those up and down intervals, still stressing legs even with a walk. So yeah, so just kind of putting that in there.
And the rolling and that, would you do it after every run? You know how you roll in like really?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you're a good roller, I would roll. I'm not a great stretch person, but I don't mind rolling. I find rolling quick, simple. I can get in and out. So yeah, I would put in that rolling.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I have not. Shannon's just asking if I've seen this year's course and been able to compare it to last year. Before you got two were on, I was on with Wendy and Dave, and Dave said that it's not as bad as last year. Last year's course was really tough. Wendy even said it was really a lot of climbing. 32 flights of stairs. I don't know. It was a lot. So Dave
68.
said sorry?
68.
68. Oh my gosh. Okay. 68 flights of stairs. That's what her watch was saying after doing the race last year. So Dave said it's not as bad this year, not as many hills, but they'll still be. I don't, in Whistler, you're always running hills. Right. So everywhere you go, it's like, oh, there's a hill. Oh, so yeah, I think that if you can get into Lost Lake and power hike up and down some of those hills in there, it'll be great. Even the really tough ones that might not be in the race, go and do those. Because if they're really tough, they're not going to be in the race. So you know you're going to be actually doing training that's going to benefit you. So I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
We could go on for the whole evening, but we need to keep you going, right?
We could. I do need to get to bed, just saying.
Right.
Yeah. No, there's so much to talk about when it comes to training. It really is. And again, if it's your first go, if you're training for the first time, kind of have fun with it. If you can, like sometimes we can get so serious about it, but I really encourage you to have fun with it. Do a little experiment with yourself. Like, I'm going to try this for Shannon. You're doing some walk run intervals. Play around with them. Maybe you feel great doing that minute walk, and maybe you want to, try lengthening your running time. Maybe you're going to lengthen your walk time. Maybe you're going to shorten it. Like, just have fun with it. Mix it up. I definitely think it's good. Run with people, with other people, if you feel comfortable doing that. Have a social run too. Just go out and have a fun run. Definitely train the terrain you're going to run on. So this year I don't think there's any pavement running. I think it's all on trail, which is great. Less impact on the body. But I would always say for people, if you're going to be running a marathon, you've got to do some of your running on pavement, because the impact in your body from pavement to trail is so much different. and it's pavement is really unforgiving. So it's kind of nice that it's the trail. If you're a person that wants to work on your foot, leg speed, and turnover, get off the main trails, get into some of the smaller, more technical trails, and just work on picking your feet up. It's the best way. It really is. If you're a person that kind of shuffles along when you run, just pick a small chunk of a trail in Lost Lake or wherever you're living, and work on picking up your feet. Okay. That for me was that helped me just to get off my plod. And it was like, no, you got to pick them up, because you don't pick them up, you're hitting the dirt. It's just what happens. So have fun with that. Okay. So if there's no more questions, Maggie, you got one? No.
No, I'm gonna keep it for next week.
Okay. Feel free to email me during the week too, if you have questions and just you're wondering about something. I will try and get those guidelines up. I know I have a busy day. I probably won't have the guidelines up until a weekend, to be perfect. I'm not going to say be perfectly honest. To be honest, I'm not going to have the guidelines up until a weekend. I will guarantee that they will be there by the weekend. Before that might not happen. But yeah. And then if you guys do have questions along the way, please have me as a resource. I'm so happy to share. I love seeing people challenging themselves and, pushing beyond your perceived limits in order to try something new or whatever. So send me an email. Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, you guys. Everybody have a great evening. Have a fun weekend of training.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
I will.
Thanks, Christine.
Oh, you're welcome, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining. Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.